I would equate it to, like a theater, right? It's all about the big idea. It's all about the dramatic, pitches. It's all about,
the headlines and the punchlines.
The wild metaphors that you would actually go out and, use. It's also about the occasional client coming and telling you, hey, create me a rich looking logo, but don't cost me any much. Brand building in Nuvama's case is everything about employees. It's about culture. It's about ethics. It's about transparency. It's even about the font size of the disclaimer that I use in the ad, right? It's all about that. There are a lot of people whom we also speak to, for whom investing is like eating Karela. Okay, सबको पता है बहुत अच्छी चीज है. You have to do it, right? You must eat it. It's healthy, but you know what? Serve it to me fried, and give me some other condiments and content around it, so that I eat it while I don't really am aware about it, right?
Hello and welcome to the HT Brand Leadership Series, a series of one-on-one interactions with top brand and marketing leaders who share their industry insights and strategies that have helped shape their stories. The series, hosted by Hindustan Times, offers a behind-the-scenes look at how leaders adjust their strategies for changing consumer behavior while leveraging media channels that improve customer relationships. Today, we are joined by Mr. Sujay Raj, the CMO at Nuvama Group. He is the man behind Nuvama's robust new identity, a BW40 under 40 honoree. Sujay has been instrumental in the company's transformation, including its demerger, rebranding and public listing, all within a year. A seasoned marketing leader with deep expertise in brand strategy, integrated communications and digital marketing, Sujay has held notable roles at Leo Burnett India, Lowell Taz and the Times of India Group in his illustrious career. He's a visionary who has reshaped narratives, redefined brand journeys, and played a key role in crafting some of India's most memorable brand stories. Welcome to the show, Sujay.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure.
Let's start with the present. What's it like in the day to day? Like how are you managing the various marketing challenges that various CMOs are facing today?
I mean, the story is the same for everyone. All of us, we're dabbling with multiple platforms. We are dabbling with multiple messages. We are dabbling with hyper-aware customers. We are dabbling with, DPDP rules. We are dabbling with consent. We are dabbling with regulations. We are dabbling with compliance. So the story is the same for everyone, I believe, and more so for marketeers who are probably a part of the banking and financial industry. Right, it becomes even more challenging, but it's not so to say that it's not the case in other industries. Of course, it is the same over there as well. But because it's all about money, it's all about large sums of money for that matter. It's a far more regulated industry, and therefore we are a little more compliant oriented as compared to other industries. So that's what it is. Yeah, I believe that's how I kind of go about managing my role. Ensuring that we are relevant and we are up to date in terms of whatever is new in the industry.
So for the benefit of our viewers, how do you start the day? What is the first thing you do? How do you carry out your agenda for the day?
Let me answer this in a slightly interesting manner if I can. So imagine maybe flaming swords. You are juggling these flaming swords. You're riding a unicycle on a tightrope over a pool of burning budgetary questions. So that's what I do on a daily basis, I think. But mornings are usually, I start my mornings with some amount of chai. I love my chai, and with a lot of new ideas on my whiteboard. By afternoon, I think I am in a conversation with my compliance team, trying to make him understand that being edgy is not being illegal. And also maybe some statutory needs that happen with the business teams during the day, where I'm trying to decipher maybe the acronyms that they use so superfluously, and sometimes is it about ROAS or is it actually me crying for help and SOS. But that's afternoon for me. By evening, I think I'm contemplating But actually, one more thing. In fact, during my afternoons, I'm also at the same time briefing a lot of my creative teams, right? And I'm trying to kind of get some content out and things like that. I'm probably also debating about some useless stuff like fonts, like if they are like, my life's decision based on those.
Yes.
I'm also, for that matter, wondering that does every work of mine actually need to, or of our team needs to be extremely viral for that matter? And I'm constantly having this conversation with my team saying, listen, not every piece needs to be this sword hanging on your head saying, okay, let's create some piece that is viral and all of that. So I'm maybe having that conversation with my team in the afternoon. By evening, like I was telling you, that I'm contemplating whether, it's the market volatility or the results of my campaign that are giving me the heartburns. But see, if you're in marketing and if you're, if you're not doing 20% strategy and 80% improv comedy, I don't think you're doing something right. So that's what I think my day looks like on a regular day. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. Speaking about handling the compliance and knowing that BFSI can get quite boring, if I'm allowed to say so, you led a massive brand transformation for Nuvama within a year, and I'm sure you must have faced some challenges. Can you just walk us through how did you all decode that entire campaign?
Some challenges is an understatement. We faced many challenges, but let me try and get this in a succinct manner, right? So I was actually got on board to help this organization move from the earlier outfit to a new outfit, and that's where I kind of joined the ship, right? And I kind of boarded the ship. And when I boarded the ship, one thing was very clear, that we're going to rename ourselves. Okay, and we were not sure what we were going to be, but we knew what we can't be the same old that we were, and that I think was the first challenge. कि भैया हमको नाम change करना है, but what should it be, right? What is it that we can actually and how do you objectively, in a very, very subjective environment of naming yourself, find a framework that does justice to why you exist? And that's where actually, the story began. So what we did is we kind of huddled up the top leaders of the organization, the excos and all of that. We huddled up into a room. The first thing that we decided to do was, and I believe what I was steering the organization towards, is to find the reason for its existence. Yes, we've been in the business for a very long time, but in an earlier avatar. And now that we are moving into a new zone, we should have a certain reason for our existence. And the answer is, if I am able to find the why of my existence, I'll be able to kind of do something better. So that's what we did. And without even really thinking too much about the name or anything of that sort, we just sat down, we jammed about what is the why of our existence? I mean, why do we actually exist? We had an answer for that. That was, I think, the first challenge. It kind of took us a little while to really narrow down what we all resonated truly, deeply, emotionally, and we are invested in what it is, right? It's almost like a soul-searching exercise. Once we were done with that, we actually made that the brief for our name. And we kind of onboarded a few agency partners to help us do this. And then we gave them the purpose of why we exist and told them, give us a name. Ab is cheez ko aap kuch naam do. And, believe you me, we had roughly around 700 to 800 names on the table. Okay.
Like almost picking a name for a child.
Yeah, in fact, almost the same, right? We had 700 to 800 names on the table. And after having so many names also, we didn't have a name. Okay. And that is the dilemma that became a challenge number 2 for us, right? Saying, okay, what do? We still don't have a name. It was very, very difficult. Something that's meaningful, something that's relevant, something that needs to pass muster in terms of being able to trademark it, not only in India, but geographically across the world. It shouldn't become a case where I mean something in India and in, other parts of the world, I mean something completely abnormal or, obnoxious, right? So that check, and the ability of being able to kind of, most importantly, mean something important, the way that we do our business. We didn't have a name after 800 names on the table, and one day we just decided to walk over to our partner's office and we said, listen, let's just talk. And finally we had a germ of a name, but even that wasn't going down very well for us, And somehow an idea struck to me, and I kind of, socialized it with our team and came in Nuvama, okay, which was nothing but a name that is combined with two different terms coming together. It is Nu plus Vama, and Nu was a representation of a new perspective, and Vama in Sanskrit means wealth and fortune. So it sat beautifully well, in terms of what we wanted to do. So new perspective towards wealth and fortune is what it became, and Nuvama came into existence. That was one challenge. That was the second challenge that we had, right? The third challenge then was to actually, when things change within the organization, which has been, working for a very long time. It's almost been 25 years that we've been, doing this business. When you change, the biggest anxiety or the biggest customer of yours is your own people, right? So the first step that we did after having changed the name is to actually talk about why we did that, what we did that. In fact, in a sort of, created a campaign for the first stakeholder of our organization, that is our own people. Okay, for a good 8 months, we didn't go out with any sort of communication externally. It was only about convincing what we are doing and why we are doing. Why is it required? Why is it necessary? How is it supposed to be said? What are the nuances of the name? Things like that. And built a lot of confidence within the system. Calmed them down, saying that nothing's changing. You guys are all, going good. The company is doing very well, but this is required and we had to do it. That was a good 8-month, activity that we kind of took up. That was the third challenge, in fact. The fourth challenge was then to find, look, we had the purpose. But purpose for me is, from a marketing lens, is the guiding principle for the internal stakeholders and processes and product development and tech development and everything, right? It is not a consumer-facing proposition. So then the fourth challenge for me was to actually find a consumer-facing proposition. Now, whatever my purpose was, which is, in the zone of customer first, come what may, I had to find a very, very evocative, relatable consumer-facing proposition, which, went down well, didn't look pedantic, was not trying to preach, was, something that was matter of fact and pithy. That search was also a couple of months. We finally landed on something. Fifth was to then go out and create comms that actually go out and, let people know at large. Now, this is external clients, this is regulators, this is exchanges, this is, all stakeholders for that matter, to understand and tell them that, listen, we are, now the choice was two, we could have just gone out and said, listen, we've changed. Yesterday we were this, today we are this. But that, we believed, was not efficient use of marketing dollar. And in my opinion, what we went ahead and did was far better and effective. What we tried to do is to speak on our purpose, and under the garb of speaking about the purpose, or under the context of having spoken about why we exist in a consumer-facing proposition way, we also announced the change of hands, or the change of name for that matter. So that became the fifth, challenge. And the last challenge was to actually get listed. Okay, and if I tell you the size of the project management team that we had to list an organization of our size and scale, you will be amazed. We had a 100-member project management team, okay, which was trying to move this old entity into a new entity. Because what happens is that you are a holdco and you have a lot of, other entities under the holdco. Now, the regulator tells us that whatever process the holdco goes through, the same process is applicable to the other listed companies or the subsidiaries of the organization. So every company had to transition, and that period itself was fairly long, and it required it had a lot of moving parts, right? It had a lot of people monitoring the pace at which it was moving, because we had taken up, I don't think, I have seen any company in the past that has gone through such a massive change in a year. Rebrand, demerge, rebrand and list in a year. And to kind of move this all, we had to move many mountains. So, a lot of challenges. And in every possible way. If I had any air about myself as a great marketing guy, it just grounded me.
We all go through that.
So you're far more grounded now, and you're far more humble. And but it was a process that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a great
and
learning.
I believe everyone, it was a learning curve for everyone, and it happens, not very often in the lives of a marketer, to kind of build a brand grounds up. I was fortunate to have taken that opportunity.
So clearly, if you look at from the perspective of brand building, there is clearly a lot of evolution that has taken place. Obviously, the brand leaders have to stay in sync with the adapting times, and in your case, I think you had to look at that 1 year window in which you had to get things
Yes.
moving. But then I think you had the experience of managing campaigns at legacy media media companies, and then coming in this position for a wealth management company. How has that shift from storytelling in traditional media to now building trust in the financial ecosystem? How has that evolved today? And how would you say it's influenced your vision at Nuvama?
Sure. So, interesting question. So, I believe, my time in my career in the past, actually during my agency life for that matter, I would equate it to, like a theater, right? It's all about the big idea. It's all about the dramatic, pitches. It's all about,
The headlines and the punchlines.
the wild metaphors that you would actually go out and, use. It's also about the occasional client coming and telling you, hey, create me a rich looking logo, but don't cost me any much. So it's also about all of that, right? But it's all about creating stories that make the brand, your role was to actually create a lot of stories that, packed the brand, make it look shiny and irresistible from the outside, right? That is what largely I was trying to equate it to my role in the earlier stint. And fast forward to maybe say Nuvama now, the role is slightly different, right? The stakes are higher. It's not only about the narrative of, creating an attention-seeking behavior. It is also about, it's actually more about earning the trust.
Yes.
It is about earning trust, investment by investment, conversation by conversation, right? It's about, it's a little more deep in my opinion as compared to what I was doing earlier. And that's where I think the shift in strategy has happened, right? I think, it's more about trying to work. I mean, brand building in this case is more about, wanting to work with people rather than for some brand, right? In the earlier stint, I was creating brands for people, for clients. Now I am creating brands with people, right? My clients, my stakeholders, my colleagues, my regulators, my stakeholders, all of that. And like I said, the needle has shifted. There's a lot more, thing that I need to do about ensuring that we build credibility for the brand as compared to just creating a loud attention-seeking campaign for ourselves. And it goes in everything. It goes, brand building in Nuvama's case is everything about employees. It's about culture. It's about ethics. It's about transparency. It's even about the font size of the disclaimer that I use in the ad, right? It's all about that. So I believe that's how my vision has shifted strategically from, where I was earlier to where I am now. It's not anymore about the big buzz. It's not about the big campaign. It's not about, all of that I used to do for a lot of my brands earlier. This is far more focused. This is far more personalized. This is far more deep. This is far more, you have a lot more ownership as compared to what it was earlier. So I believe that's how the vision has shifted largely.
Understood. So now, if we are able to look at how you have been able to straddle from an agency to a brand, I think what happens is you're also looking at the customer. Their consumer behavior is also changing, and in today's day and age where data-driven advertising is taking place, how do you see behavioral shifts of marketers changing as well? How are you able to pivot? And how are you capturing those data insights, looking at the consumer behavior, and how are you adapting to their wants?
I think, there are three things that have happened with the customer, okay, and that has led to this evolution of a new age customer, in my opinion. And as marketers, we have to evolve as they do, right? So customers, I think overall, I may not be wrong in saying that customers today have become hyper informed, but with very low attention span. That's what has happened to the customer, is what I believe. Okay, and so if they walked into, your branch or any other product category for that matter, it's safe to assume that they have, researched, they've read reviews, they have watched a few YouTube explainers, they have done their bit and still have decided to actually put you in the cart for later. Okay, they haven't really bought you. Okay. In spite of having done all of this,
in spite of walking in,
yes, and still have decided to kind of said, hey, listen, you know what? I'll think about it. So it's become very difficult, right? The second thing that I think has happened is that trust, okay? And because I'm coming from this industry, I'm going to talk a lot about trust. Bear with
me. Absolutely.
Trust doesn't flow, top down anymore. And what do I mean by that? I mean, no matter how big a campaign that you do, no matter how big an endorsement that you get, no matter how big a celebrity that you get on board, trust today doesn't flow bottom or top down. Trust, in my opinion, flows sideways these days, okay? And I am ready to trust a complete stranger on the internet, who's given me a review about the product or the service that I'm wanting to buy, versus anything that a marketer or a brand manager or a celebrity is actually willing to, talk about the brand.
The whole reviews proposition comes in.
Exactly. So the trust today, I believe, flows sideways. So that's a big change that has happened, in terms of how the dynamics work. And the third thing, in my opinion, is the fact that, customers are looking, or rather brands were actually trying to sell status of, wanting to be associated with a brand. So for example, if you're buying into a brand, there's a bit of a status associated with buying into or dipping into that brand. I don't think that's relevant anymore. I think what has happened is that the customer is seeking authenticity.
Correct.
Okay, a lot more
and value
as compared to anything that we were trying to sell or peddle in the past. So what does that mean? It means that the customer is not looking for perfectionism anymore. The customer is willing to, forgive you for your mistakes. And the customer is basically saying, stay relevant, be responsible, and don't ghost me after having bought into your product.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I think, the authenticity nuance that the customer is seeking for. So if these three things have happened broadly, okay, I'm just talking about this broadly. If these three things have happened broadly in the industry today or in the consumer's evolution journey, then a marketer also must evolve. Absolutely. And I think the only thing that the marketer needs to do today is to be able to build the ability to listen extremely carefully and, have a great sense of timing. Because we are so hyperactive, we are so hyper informed and aware. So if you listen well, if you understand the equation of the trust flow, if you are authentic, if you get your sense of timing right, you will have done a good job for yourself. So that's, I think, the way the dynamics have changed.
I think that pretty much trickle down to how customers demand both personalization and purpose. And you mentioned purpose earlier. So while you're designing your own campaign, while you're designing your own communication strategy, you can't underestimate the customer's needs as well.
Yeah.
So I think that becomes a huge filter for you.
Yeah, of course. And in fact, personalization has become very critical. And by personalization, I don't mean the fact that there is an emailer campaign and you put the first name of the customer on the emailer campaign and just diff it out as generic content. That's not personalization, right? In my case, in fact, in our case, it's even more important, right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a solution for a customer basis a certain life stage that he is at or she is at, a certain risk profile that he or she has, what goals or dreams that person has for herself, himself, for his family, her family, at what stage of investing journey has that person reached, what is the asset allocation that he currently follows, what is the portfolio that the person currently has, and try and then advise on a certain way forward, right? So for me, personalization is ingrained. I can't have the same advisory for you as I can have for someone over there, right? I have to ensure that it's deeply personalized and I have serviced you well.
Correct.
That's what is actually, a great mix for me. And I'm so thankful for the fact that a lot of industries, actually, it becomes important for you to do this. In my case, it's default. I have to behave this way. So depersonalization, for that matter, is extremely critical in my scheme of things.
Also, financial planning conversations, they are not the most entertaining for most people. So obviously, you have to make it interesting. You have to bring storytelling over here. So how do you bring storytelling magic into a sector like financial services? Yes, personalization is the key. I think that's where storytelling becomes even more relevant, because you want to tell their story, how it would be if they make an investment later.
That's
on.
right. So again, very, very interesting, because I'll tell you from our lens, from Nuvama's lens, we are one of the very few, or maybe rather only, organization that has a mass affluent practice for wealth creation, right? It's largely been a UHNI thing, right? But we've believed in something, and we've kind of stood the test of time over a number of years now, and we've seen success in that geography and in that business practice of ours. What we realize is that while we speak to a lot of HNIs, okay, there are a lot of people whom we also speak to, for whom investing is like eating Karela. Okay, सबको पता है, बहुत अच्छी चीज है. You have to do it, right? You must eat it. It's healthy, but you know what? Serve it to me fried, and give me some other condiments and content around it, so that I eat it while I don't really am aware about it, right? So it's that kind of a scenario that we are in, and to ensure that they kind of get the concept of wealth creation early on in their lives, it's very important to de-jargonize the concepts of financial investing, financial savings, right? Or financialization of savings rather. And all our attempts, for that matter, are in that domain, right? We always try and education is a key tenet of our ability to go out and service our clients, and simplifying everything. So we always keep clarity over cleverness as an important factor. We want to ensure that whatever we go out is simple, is clear, is authentic, is 100% transparent, and is compliant, right? And as long as we can serve it to them in a manner that they understand, and we get a response from them, hey, that makes sense, we're done. The minute you kind of leave them in a complex financial investing world with even more complex ways of going out and doing it, you've lost the customer, right? And that is something that we avoid a whole lot. So we depend on a lot of tools, for that matter. We depend on analogies, we depend on testimonials, we depend on humor, we depend on various ways of being able to kind of dish out this content to our clients, our prospective clients. And also you will be amazed, and I'm not necessarily amazed actually, because there is a initiative that we run for especially the women cohort, right? And we call it the Blue Bindi initiative. This is again a cohort that feels alienated when it comes to, and they're sitting on they're sitting on lots of money. These are people who are maybe home entrepreneurs. They are maybe sitting on cash because it has kind of come down generations. They are sitting with, and I have had so many chats with people who say, hey, paisa pada hai, kya karna nahi malum hai, right? And therefore, to work with them, we have to make content that fits the right sensibilities for this cohort, right? And you have to ensure that they understand what it means. Like, for example, if I just tell them, hey, listen, this is a product that gives you X% IRR at the end of 5 years. Oh God, you've lost that customer because उसको कुछ नहीं समझना. वो क्या मतलब होता है उसका? मुझे नहीं पता. Right? So you have to really make it simple for them to understand, especially depending upon, and it is horses for courses. So I'm saying, you have an HNI, you talk to them the language that they understand, they're very good with it. But then you also have, cohorts like these who, like I said, think about investing as eating Karela. So, you have to do what it requires.
I think you mentioned something around the brand trust.
Yeah.
I want to spend some more time on that, wherein let's come out of the BFSI industry. Let's look at all the sectors put together. I think everybody keeps talking about brand love. How much has the needle moved? Don't you think brand trust is the first level to achieve brand love? Do you have a point of view on that? Because I think that will hold true across sectors.
Yes, I think so. And even so, in today's world, I believe it's extremely critical and important. Brand trust, for that matter, is the only currency that, at least in my industry, I have. If that is the biggest barrier and that is the biggest trigger. If I don't have any levels of trust with my client, I'm not going to get any work. I'm not going to get any business. But imagine if I have that trust, it's the only reason why the customer will want to work with me. So it does both for you, right? You have to ensure that it keeps moving towards the trigger and ensuring that you are on the right side of credibility for the customer. And I believe brand love, for that matter, the bedrock of it is trust for any category, for that matter. Now, whether I'm having a soda or I'm having a credit card, or I'm kind of going to a restaurant, dining somewhere, if I don't trust that restaurant or the place for the kind of food that they'll serve, I'll not be, interested in getting or going there again. So it could be any industry for that matter, but I believe brand trust is the most important bedrock of creating any brand love.
Perfect. So I'll move to the next aspect in BFSI, which is the fintech space, which in the last few years we've seen a blast of apps coming in, and some of them have faced the fury of many customers when it came to brand love. But then they are also competition for you. Well, some legacy players have also joined hands or bought some of these startups. So how are you looking at this landscape, and how do you differentiate yourself now?
So yes, that's true. A lot of fintechs have entered the space, and the space is ripe, right? The space is a growing industry. It's a sunrise industry, and you will have space for many players to come in. And in fact, more players that walk in, it'll do only good for the industry, because wealth management is, we believe, in India, is what it was in the 80s in the US, right? So that is the runway that we have as an industry, and more players are bound to enter, right? And fintechs for sure. But there is this, common thread, if I may say, theme thread about fintechs, right? They are largely about, seamless experiences, or they are largely about smart investing, and they are largely, tech enabled, right? That is why they are fintechs, right? Their growth lever is technology. So at Nuvama, we are a slightly different thought process. We are a little wired a bit differently. We don't want to be different for the heck of it. We want to be different because it requires us to be different and there is reason for us to be different, right? So the three, I think, principles on which I can think of that Nuvama is actually sitting on is the fact that it's advisory over algorithms, in my opinion. Okay, advise over algorithms is what I mean by that is the fact that we believe in deep touch and deep tech. We believe in high touch and we believe in high tech, right? And therefore, in especially the category of wealth management where money is getting spoken about, and it could be the lowest of sums like a few lakhs or maybe hundreds of crores that we're talking of, at the end of the day, it's money. And we believe that the human intervention will never be taken away from this industry ever. As much as we want to kind of move and shift towards robo-advisory, it's not something that we believe in will take over. And there will always be a phone call needed to have a conversation with a human at the end of the day. So we believe it's advisory over algorithms. So we're not saying that we are not, deploying technology. We are also deploying high-end technology. We are also deploying the most modern technology. We are also learning from the language models. We are also doing all of that. We are in fact using it extremely, creatively in our learning and development for our human capital, right? But at the core of it, we'll always be a hybrid approach. And I think that is very different from what the others are doing. The other thing that we try and be different about is, we build a sense of conscience in the way that we go out and doing this, right? And technology doesn't have conscience, right? So that I think is something that we are trying to build. And the third thing is about, keeping the pillar of education always on, right? So these are the three ways in which we are trying to be slightly different from what is happening in the industry. And to date, it's given us good results. In fact, we've also seen a lot of people now trying to, maybe take over a similar model and move forward. But it's not easy because, it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of investment. To just give you a sense of, the amount of people that we have in terms of RMs and, the size and scale is, we have roughly around 15 to 1800 RMs, who are working and talking to clients on a daily basis. And that scale, that size. And we will most probably, scale that even bigger. And so for companies that are entering the market now, to be able to kind of work or to get to that scale, it'll take some time, but they'll be there. And we have to find our next advantage in this industry and move towards that as soon as possible so that we are ahead of the curve.
Understood. You mentioned deep touch and deep tech. Obviously, deep touch means a human touch.
Yes.
So how does that conversation go with when you're collaborating with the product and tech teams? How do you align with the brand promise and the customer experience? Because
so let me give you an example. Sorry, I cut you short.
Sure, please.
But let me give you an example on this. I just got a drift of the question that you were asking me. Maybe you're asking for an example of how we kind of do this deep touch and all of that, right? So, there is a like I said, we have a mass affluent advisory, and we're trying to, create a certain value proposition for that business. Okay, now, when we go down this path of creating a value proposition for, any kind of business that are in the group, the thought process begins from the very fact that we are a human capital company. So it's very simple that we do not, discount that fact at all, right? Point number one is that. Point number two is, when you make human capital as the, the growth driver, you will ensure that your products, for that matter, and what is my product in this case, right? My product is advisory. At the end of the day, I'm a service brand, right? My product is advisory. My product has to be in line with what the customer today really needs, or for that matter, I'm able to anticipate, what the customer will even need further or may not have even thought of, right? And the fact that the marketing team today sits down and understands that need, works with the product team in and out, saying, hey, listen, you know what? This is what you need to do in your advisory. So for example, wealth management, if you even distill it down further, is about distribution of financial products. Now, if I have to distribute financial products today, how many financial products are there in the market? There are upwards of 5,000 products in the market. Now, is it humanly possible for me to kind of go out and advise on 5,000 products to my customers? No, it's not possible. Is it, really good and important for those customers to know about the 5,000 products? No, it's not important. What is important is what is the right product for me. And what is important is what is the right mix of focus products that I should have as advisory for the certain types of cohorts that I have made as as buckets of customers that I have. So the product team therefore has to understand that, boss, there has to be a focus product portfolio that you advise on. So that's working with, coming from marketing, going to the product team, saying, hey, listen, create a focus product portfolio, create a model portfolio, create deep personalized advisory, create, the ability to kind of, listen back or create a platform for that matter. And this is where technology comes into sync, right? Saying, ki, ye product, if I have to tell you, listen, tell me what's your portfolio like. It's very likely, and, I will possibly hear from you say, listen, exactly ऐसा portfolio तो नहीं मालूम है, but कुछ किया है मैंने बहुत सारी जगह पे. I have some mutual funds, I have some this, I have some this. Now let me ask you a question. Do you know how much have you making in the year on your entire investments that you've made? You will not have an answer. Because
depend on a CKYC report or whatever NSDL sends us.
Exactly, CAMP से आता है आपको.
Yeah.
So आप वो सोच के शायद बता दोगे.
एक estimate आता है.
But maybe that also still does not give you your real estate. That does not give
doesn't capture.
That doesn't capture, what other investments that you've made beyond the regulated or for that matter tracked.
Yeah.
So if I have to give you, the ability to kind of tell me year on year, listen, this is what I make on the money that I've invested. I need a platform. I need a platform which therefore the technology team needs to pitch in, because this is the way I need to service the brand. I need to service the client. A client को मैं अगर पोर्टफोलियो नहीं बता सका तो मैं एडवाइस कैसे करूंगा?
Exactly.
और वो पोर्टफोलियो करने के लिए मुझे उनका एक प्लेटफॉर्म चाहिए, जो प्लेटफॉर्म पे वो जाके
डेटा फिल करे,
and then I'm able to kind of, so that's how marketing, product, technology all come together. It's not only left to that. I'm saying today, if I have to advise, so my RM, okay, if today I have to advise you as honestly as possible, okay, I cannot have the same industry standards of incentive structure for my RM, right? I have to rethink.
Yes.
So that also says, hey, listen, you know what? Marketing has an impact on the HR practice of, how should the structure be done? I cannot expect the RM to be outdated. So therefore, marketing has to have an impact on learning and development. Boss, you have to be aware of the ways in which you are going to be interacting with the client, with updated product knowledge, with updated financial knowledge, and not only restricted to that, it's not about classroom sessions. How can I make it even better? How can I deploy a real life simulation with the help of language learning models today to let an RM sit in front of a computer and talk to that person as saying, hey, listen, you are a real life customer. How do you do that? So things like that, right? So a lot of marketing input, works with every other function of the organization to be able to bring out the final value proposition for an organization. So I just give you an example how it kind of works.
No, that's a very strong example actually. That's how I think the marriage of human touch and technology has to happen. Coming back to the various verticals you spoke about, how does a unified voice echo through all of these verticals? Because the best example is the Tata. The Tatas have the Tata trust. They always somewhere nudge it. Somewhere, the Tata promise, the Tata. So how do you see that being built up in this current conversation across these verticals?
So we're too young to be anywhere close to Tata. So that for sure. But yes, it's a very difficult task. When you have diverse set of businesses, which probably talk to various kinds of consumers, to be able to kind of have a common narrative across the entire brand and individually at every business level, carry that out, it's very tough and daunting as a task, but because it is centrally managed, it is one of the reasons why we are able to kind of hold it all together. So there's a lot of governance on, how and what should be going out as a brand on any, whether it's at a group level or is at a business level, that we are able to kind of, hold it together as of now. But the minute we grow and we scale, that kind of is a question that I'm dabbling with as to how will I ensure that it continues to be. Like, how do you get the McDonald's standardization, but in the case of a brand, which, is not as simple as just, making a burger and, just restricting the amount of quantity that things that go into making a burger, but has human involvement and no human can actually think the same. So therefore, it's a very difficult task in my opinion. And I think as we grow, as we become, as we scale higher and higher,
you'll get more learnings.
Yeah, there will be a lot of learnings that will come in. And currently, what we're doing is we are currently managing it at a central level. We are ensuring that there's a tight leash on what kind of work goes out, what is the way the brand is represented, which business is doing what, what kind of communication goes out on those businesses. Everything is, there's a standard operating procedure that runs through the central team. Therefore, there is a little bit of consistency in execution.
So you mentioned an American equity brand like McDonald's.
Equity nahi hai, but
it's a strong choice if I have to invest in the US markets, just like how Apple is. So in the Indian financial services, if I have to compare you becoming the Apple or the McDonald's of the market, what would be your North Star be as a marketer?
Apple को लेके चलते हैं यार, McDonald's के साथ नहीं कर सकता, but so okay, so what does Apple do? Let's kind of just break that down. Okay, let's break that down in terms of how does Apple come across to its customers. I think it's what it places a lot of importance on are again three things in my opinion. They are intuitiveness. They are highly intuitive, right? Apple products are highly intuitive. They are aspirational. तो साला लाइन लग जाता है whenever 15 or 16 में कोई फर्क नहीं है, but फिर भी 16 बहुत ज़्यादा बिक रहा है 15 से. So it's highly aspirational, and it's beautifully simple. Okay, that is what I think are the three things that make Apple what it is, right? Any Apple product for that matter, whether it's a MacBook, whether it's a phone, whether it's a Bud, whether it is the new AR VR headset, whatever the hell it is. So if I'm able to do this with Nuvama, I'll retire. So that is what is, I think, my agenda. If I'm able to make wealth management extremely intuitive, सबको पता है बहुत अच्छी चीज है. Everyone knows that one should do it, but doesn't, especially the working class, doesn't really pay as much attention towards it. So how do you make wealth management very intuitive as a thing to do for sure? How do you make the brand aspirational, right? So for example, which brand or which organization or what brand is actually managing your wealth is extremely critical. And if I make that brand aspirational,
yes,
which means that I love to interact with this brand, and I choose the word love, is the way that I can get to if I am able to get there, okay? And if I keep things extremely simple, like I said, education, de-jargonize, make things simple in a very complex world, any which ways, in a very highly regulated manner, I think I would have done a good job. So if we break down what Apple does beautifully and just copy-paste that to Nuvama, that's how I think I can build some value.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you want to make it more accessible, and people should aspire to access that information.
Yes. Yeah, accessible, of course, because from a wealth management point of view, you are wanting to start at a certain level, and therefore, so if you see the triangle if you see the pyramid, okay, for that matter, of the audiences in this industry, at the bottom are the affluent. Okay, which is what we call it, and largely serviced by banks. Okay, and they're doing a fab job of funneling in customers by getting them into the fold of opening accounts, the fold of savings, the fold of investing. They could be investing in traditional asset classes and traditional products and things like that. You move a little further, and that's where we call it the mass affluent, right? Now, this is the category where people want to graduate a little more, right? They want to get a little more than what the banks are giving them. And the banks would traditionally not want to move to, products that they are already servicing, right? They would rather keep them in that because that's where it makes a lot of sense for them to do. But the customer evolves and their life stages evolve and they become wealthier.
Also, right? Risk appetite.
And therefore, the risk appetite also increases. And they want slightly more complex products and, far more products that are returning far more than the FDs of the world, the mutual funds of the world and things like that, right? And when they move there is when we catch them. So accessibility for us is at that level.
Correct.
Right? So from that lens. So and therefore I was saying that if you look at Apple, it's more about Everyone wants an apple. Even the person at the bottom of the pyramid wants the apple. But it is intuitive, aspirational, and aspirational is the point, and beautifully simple is what I believe Apple does beautifully well.
Again, Apple being a tech brand, we spend a lot of time on talking about how tech meets the human touch. What really excites you when it comes to wealth management and technology and the future of customer engagement? Anything that excites you today?
Predictability. I think if technology can help me predict, almost, give me the ability to read my customer's mind, I would love. And that is what I think the technology is getting to.
Right.
I think as the way it's evolving, very soon, see how important it is, for a marketer to be able to know why is that customer buying me, or why is that customer not buying me, or why is that customer actually, completely abandoning the beautiful journey that I've made for him to go through. Is it, him doing it himself, or is it like a, pet at the home that's just run over the keyboard and therefore the transaction just got, disbanded. So, these kind of predictabilities, if technology can actually get me, and I'm looking forward to, that from...
I think most marketers would love to know that.
Would love to do it, right? I mean, it's like, बस पता चल जाए क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है, किसके लिए कर रहे हैं इसे. I'll be actually very excited to kind of dabble with something that...
I think we're getting there. Maybe the precision may be a little off.
I'm sure we are getting there very soon, and we'll be in some time be able to do far better as compared to what we do right now. But yes, of course, along with it comes, see, technology also banks on a lot of data that is today, almost freely available. Consumers are not so... I mean, the Western customer is a far more evolved customer, is aware of the data that the customer is leaving behind. In India today, we are not as evolved, but very soon getting there. And, so it's going to be tough for technology to also start, getting that input that it's currently getting almost freely, and to be able to predict and build a predictability model. But soon it will get tough and difficult.
Sure.
While it's moving there, there's also a challenge coming its way.
Sujay, if I have to ask you a simple question, on what advice would you give young marketers today who are trying to start off by picking a career in marketing, what would that be?
I have an acronym for it. And it's an acronym that we are all very now used to. But I think it is KYC SH. Okay, and what I mean is, I think you know what KYC is, but what is SH is, so know your customer thoroughly, okay, and speak human. Okay, now whether it is, you asked me about other industries, right, and I'm kind of going to allude to that now. The fact of the matter is that whether today I'm in the industry of selling a soda or water or credit card or capital markets or whatever the heck it may be, as a marketer, you are at the end of the day speaking to a human.
Yes.
Okay, we at the early days in our lives, we tend to forget this, and we start making the mistake of thinking that we're talking to a demographic, we're talking to a data set, we're talking to the Nielsens of the world, just make you mad. Oh, they're talking to a data set, you're talking to a cohort, you're talking to... At the end of the day, we're talking to a human who actually is fearful, has dreams, has emotions, is human. So if you're not going to be able to kind of succeed if your ideas do not connect. If your ideas do not connect, your consumers won't convert, right? So these things, actually it summarizes both of it, right? So unless you know your customer thoroughly and you don't speak to them in a human manner, you will not be able to succeed in your attempt to grow in the marketing field. So I believe whatever your assignments are in the beginning, as early as you can get, start thinking in this manner to be able to kind of create strategies that are in sync with today's, way of going about marketing a product or a service in the industry.
So that holds true even when you're growing as a marketer, when you're moving across execution strategy. Would you say that applies at that phase as well?
That's true. It's true. It's. I mean, in execution even more, right? I mean, I'm just saying to say that, and let me kind of bring it back to my industry. In execution, in the world of BFSI, we are not looking for an idea that sells the fastest, right? We are looking for an idea that stands the test of time, or maybe the next market correction, right? So I'm saying even more in execution, right? So if you have to have an idea that stands the test of time, you can't have an idea if you don't know your customer well. If you can't know if you can't have a great idea that relates to you if you've not spoken in a very human manner, right? You've not become emotionally relevant for the customer.
And if we filter it down to just the BFSI industry,
currently, yeah, okay,
then that again is the holy,
very well.
holy
very
grail.
It's a holy grail. It's extremely relevant.
So then clearly you need some more superpowers, and if you are as a marketer, if you had a superpower, what would that be?
I already answered that question to you. I told you mind reading.
Predictability. But then that was because of tech. That's not a superpower.
I want that superpower only. No, मुझे वही superpower तो चाहिए कि मुझे mind reading करने दो यार किसी का. If you remember the movie Mel Gibson from What Women Want.
Yes.
Right? If I can do or if I can become Mel Gibson,
yes,
that's the superpower I want.
Okay. I hope your wife is not listening.
But not about women. Of course about them too, but about my customers most.
Sure. That helps. And anything or any person who has influenced you on picking this career path, and what key advice would you pick up from that has helped you shape your professional journey today?
Lots of people, yaar. ऐसा तो मतलब
I think one or two things that keep coming back to you. Yaar, this is what I need to align to.
Yeah.
I remember somebody telling me that be empathetic, wear the customer's shoes. So I always try and think from that
similar है तो मतलब similar है but थोड़ा सा grounded है मेरे को लगता है. I was once in my early days trying to crack a brief, and I was working with my then chairman, a big name in the industry, and I was trying very hard to convince him कि मेरा brief बहुत अच्छा है सर, आप ले लो, आप इस पे कुछ बना दो मेरे लिए अच्छा सा, and he was outrightly rejecting it. I mean, I was very pissed, the fact that everything that I took to him, he was always like, "Ye kya bakwas hai yaar, I've done this time dozens of times," and things like that. And then one fine day, he actually ended up telling me, "Sujay, तू बहुत try कर रहा है, बहुत hard try कर रहा है, एक simple चीज कर, ये जो तू बेचना चाह रहा है ना, ये जो तू brief जिसके लिए लिखा हुआ है, ये product को तू market में जाके बेच क्या?" Okay, so he told me, actually go to the store, try sell this product, and this is a product that is extremely mass at the bottom of the pyramid. And he said, "Boss, go and sell this product in the market. You get that first-hand experience of selling this product in the market and come and then write the brief. I'll tell you, you will write the brief much better." And that actually, shook me up. That उसके पहले तो हम क्या वो glass room में बैठ के glamorous का agency environment में बैठ के you're kind of sitting down and writing a brief for a brand. But that, when I did it, I mean, it just changed the whole perspective. It's a penny drop in your mind. Then everything that you started, writing for, thinking about, that's the change, that you want, even for that matter, it's applicable for the young marketeers also. That question that you asked me, it really changed my perspective, I think, at that point in time. I started taking a lot more effort. I started taking a lot more responsibility towards what I'm doing, what I'm writing for, whom am I writing for. I started thinking like a business partner as compared to, someone who's actually trying to solve a business problem, as compared to just, I have to create a 30-seconder out of this. I think that also helped me, move quickly within the system and things like it helps. It helps because then people see it, they recognize it. Effort is really recognized, and I think if you do it, that actually is a very interesting, time when I was really shaken, and I think maybe it could be a thing that shaped me.
Awesome. On that note, thank you, Sujay. I hope you share many more briefs, win many more accolades, and shake more people up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for calling me, and thank you. I appreciate this moment.
And thank you for sharing the behind the scenes of Nuvama's remarkable transformation and sharing your unique perspective on brand building, strategic innovation, and leadership in the financial service space. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
Pleasure. Take care.
Thank you for discussing behind the scenes of Nuvama's remarkable transformation and sharing your unique perspective on brand building, strategic innovation, and leadership in the financial services space. Your ability to balance creative vision with business impact is truly inspiring and a masterclass in what modern marketing leadership looks like. We look forward to seeing how you continue to shape narratives, challenge conventions, and lead with purpose. Stay tuned for the next episode of the HT Brand Leadership Series.